In your car, in the shower, on a walk through the Dylan Hour. Feeling sweet, feeling sour.
I feel nothing.
The Dylan Hour. My couch is open, it's better than therapy. All you soccer moms, all your theys and thems, all your bottom boys, my bisexual femmes. Come one and all, disassociate with me. It's free. Grab a drink, or two, or three. You have no friends, all good, you got me. It's the Dylan Hour. Love ya. Hello and welcome back to the Dylan Hour. Is this an okay time? God, I hope it is, because this might be one of my favorite episodes of the Dylan Hour and definitely the most vulnerable, because I am bringing on sort of a queen of vulnerability and just kindness and buoyancy, with my favorite author and someone who got me through a lot in my life. And God, we cover a lot of different things, and I just want to get into it. So without further ado, I want to welcome on to the Dylan Hour, Glennon Doyle.
Dylan, I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting to meet you for so many years.
This is just the beginning.
I know.
I can't wait to be on a real couch with you one day.
I know. And I was trying to figure out today when you came into my consciousness, because now it's just like this overlapping thing where every person that I love is your friend. And so
I'm going to take that as a huge compliment, because the people that you love you're very specific about, and the people that I now love, which is something that I learned through you. I also feel like I learned how to occupy space because of you, and taking up space, and the fact that you're willing to come on to my space today and share with me is the greatest gift in the entire world.
I'm delighted. I
was going through a really rough time last year, and you reached out in a moment when I think I was at my lowest, and now I'm back, baby. I'm feeling happier than ever, but just having that support from you, somebody that I've admired for so long, but then actually getting to connect with you and talk with you is I couldn't believe it. But so on social media, how are you just scrolling? Or you kind of how do you see things? How do you monitor what you're seeing and filtering these things?
Yeah, it's been a long journey for me. I'm a highly sensitive person. And so I had this idea for a long time that I was just supposed to be able to handle social media life. I was supposed to be able to handle the input of the world. And so I would continue to expose myself to everything, even though it crushed me constantly, because of this tough supposed to self that I constantly think I'm about to become and never have. And so over time, in my last phase of recovery, which has been my most effective, I just have really started accepting who I am, not who I wish I would be, but who I actually am and how things actually make me feel. And I really filter carefully my social media, my internet, my all of the input in my life, I filter really carefully.
And the texting is the thing that you taught me, was that I don't have to text people back right away.
No.
Or at all.
Dylan, whenever I get really frustrated or stressed about some perceived obligation, it really helps me to take a step back and think about whether I even agreed to that obligation. 20 years ago, people didn't live in all day in response to whoever wanted to tag them, you're it all day, just in reaction constantly, because they didn't have phones.
How crazy though that somebody can see when you read something.
It's like being monitored all the time.
On Instagram, if I want to see something that somebody tagged me in or they sent me a message, they know that I saw it, and then it's like a countdown clock of if I'm going to, or if. What does that mean if you don't? Do you have a little bubbly next to you?
I've got some bubbly.
What is your bubbly?
So I've been sober for 47,000 years. So this
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is my favorite. We call it fancy water in my house. So boring water obviously is flat. Fancy water is bubbly water. My favorite is grapefruit. It's this spindrift. Do you know
Oh,
spindrift?
that's like healthy for you, I think.
I mean, I think it's like fake healthy. Like I'm sure it's not actually healthy. And I don't know anything about this company. They could be awful. I'm
Well, I
not
think
promoting
that
them.
Laffy Taffy is a fruit. So
Yeah.
in my mind, Spindrift is about as crazy as I'm going to get when it comes to like healthy things.
Right. Well, there you go.
I thought, because on the Dylan Hour, we always have a little something to sip on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd call it bubbly girl water today.
Oh, I
Because
love it.
as I think people might assume that we're both kind of, we get vulnerable, we get serious, but we're also kind of fun.
I think we're fun.
How do you shift from going from like your bubbly self to then like when people expect the serious vulnerability from you?
I'm constantly back and forth, back and forth. I don't
Same.
understand anything if it's not funny. Like, I think life is, all the hard stuff is absurdly hilarious. It's just all, life is
Cuckoo.
ridiculously hard, and that's what makes it funny.
And then I feel like if I've lived in the hard for too long, I have to like make a joke or I have to do something to lighten the tone a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also, occupying space. I feel like I feel too guilty about if I'm like taking something too vulnerable for a while, then I'm like, oh, I need to not tell people how I actually feel.
Yeah. That's like when you're texting, people text me something really serious and then write LOL at the end.
Yes.
It's like we can't take the sincerity. So we have to like punctuate it with
something that's
joking.
like just JK.
Yeah.
And so a big thing that we're doing here after our first sip is the bitter and sweet of the week. And
Okay, you
if
go
you
first.
Need a second to think about it.
You go first.
Okay. I would say that my bitter is I feel like I have sort of outgrown certain habits and took a major step forward in a lot of ways, creatively and like psychologically. And now I'm starting to go back into like my sad girl era a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself taking like two big steps back and leaning more into sort of these comfortable habits that aren't good for me. And it's scary because I know that progress has been made, but it almost feels like nothing happened. Like it's especially, I think, when you do a project or you release something that you're so proud of and then it's over, you almost forget that it exists in a way. Like I did this play and it was the happiest time in my life. And now that it's not happening, for a bit, it feels like, did it ever happen at all?
Yeah.
But I think the sweet for my week is knowing that I do have things to look forward to. My book, my play will happen again. I think that's what's really screwed about social media is you feel like every single day you have to be putting something out there. And if you don't, you're not, relevant or special or people don't care about you anymore. And it is cool to finally have these projects that I've been working on for years to then be like, oh, but wait till, this comes out and hopefully that wave I can ride it a little longer. But is that something that you've experienced? Like when you release a book and then it's like, what now? Or how long do you live in that high?
Absolutely. But the older I get and the longer I live in this creative world, the more I feel like people like Adele and Lorde have it figured out. Like I trust and like people who make something deep and wide and beautiful and take their time and go away and don't feel the scarcity of being relevant every day and then come back with something that's true and real and an offering and then go away again. Because what I have found when I succumb, which is often, to the pressure to be relevant every day, to be doing something, to be offering something all the time, because my entire life is a back and forth between this energy of leave me alone and I feel left out. Like,
yes.
Just back and
0
forth.
to 100.
All the time. But it's like this, it's different to offer something daily or weekly or monthly. It's shallow. They're just more shallow offerings than the ones that come when you trust yourself and your art enough to go away and have the transformation and depth that real art requires, and then come back with that. And it's just withstanding that like scarcity in the air of, you know what it is? My therapist called it the other day is, she said, Glennon, you need some more object permanence. Like, you know how babies think, like when they close their eyes, they disappear? Like, just because no one's paying attention to you right now doesn't mean you don't exist, Glennon. Like, it's okay. Go away, make your stuff, and come back.
Right.
So I get that, Dylan.
And Adele, like, I think she just, because she finished out her Adele World sort of concert, and she was like, I don't know when you're gonna see me next, and we don't, but she gave hell of a show, and that's like, I think when you're doing it, you put it all out there.
Yeah, and she said, I think I've been thinking about this every day. She said, I've built this beautiful life, and now I want to go live it. What's the point of building all the things if we never sink in and say it's good enough and enjoy all of the beauty of the actual lives we work so hard to build? I think she's a really great example of not succumbing to scarcity.
Okay, I'm going to try to not succumb to the scarcity.
Yeah.
Now, you've had a minute. Do you think you might have a bitter and sweet of the week?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit similar to yours, and it's kind of dramatic, so I'll just say it in a simple way.
I love drama.
Okay. So
Give it to me.
Think the bitter is that I kind of like, I've been really doing so well and strongly with my recovery this last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then just in this past month, I've really backslid a little bit. And that has sucked. And I felt very lost, and kind of like what you were saying in terms of, wait, what happened? Did I ever even recover? I've forgotten everything. I'm fucked again, et cetera, et cetera. And then I realized the sweet is that the other day I sat down and I figured out why I let myself get, for me, it's all has to do with eating. I think everybody has, I consider myself lucky that it's something that's so obvious that I can like
pinpoint.
See on my body. I can feel, I actually stop eating when Abby calls it when I get weird again. And I never really know why. It's been happening for freaking 45 years. But this time I figured out that I had started making decisions again that were outside of my desire. Dylan, had made these really strong, important decisions that I was going to pull back on some things, that I was going to like live my delicious little life and not sign contracts, not do these things that like, that some people can handle, but for me, require me to build up this like armor that I don't want to have to live with. Like I want to build a life that supports the softest version of myself. But because of scarcity, I had started abandoning myself again.
That you shouldn't have.
Right. And so I was doing that again, and I was making decisions that were outside of that like important decision that I had made to take care of myself. So the sweet is that I figured it out. I would not have figured it out. I would have gone on for another year. I would have gotten loster and loster. I would have been. And so
how'd you find it?
Well, I was in therapy actually. And I was reporting what had happened. And my therapist said, okay, but like a month ago, we were all right. You were going to make this decision. Remember, you were happy because of this and this and this. And I realized, oh my God, those are the things I was going back on. And so immediately after the therapy session, I made some really serious, important calls to say, nope, I'm not doing it. Nope. I disappointed a bunch of people. I let down 3 different people that I don't want to let down. And then I felt okay. And I was able to start eating again. And now I feel alive again.
And did the fear of like telling these people, was it because you didn't want to upset anyone? Like was it the people pleaser in you?
I think that it wasn't, I think a little bit. I think more it was the fear of irrelevance, of I always think, well, if there's an opportunity in front of me, if everybody else would want that opportunity, then I should do it. I should want it. Like, if it's on the table, other people would die for that thing. Like, of course I should do it. What? And I'm like, that's not, Dylan, I can just feel when I'm making a disembodied decision. Like, if it's like, it's totally disembodied. I'm like, It's like when I go to the grocery store and I buy a bunch of freaking kale and I get it home. And Abby's like, do you want me to just throw this kale directly in the trash, or should we put it in the fridge first and pretend we're the kind of people who are going to eat kale again? Like, I'm making decisions about this fake person I am not. And when I actually get in my body and I think, do I want that? Even if everybody else would want it, I don't want it.
When I was listening to your audiobook you talked about writing a previous book and then going to promote it and then realizing like, ooh, this doesn't feel as good. And I think it needs to be something different. And I was going through a very similar situation last year. Was that a really crazy decision for you to be making?
Yeah. I mean, Dylan, I was, it's weird to think back then, but when I was writing Love Warrior, I was just really entrenched in evangelical Christianity. I was a Sunday school teacher. My community was all Christian women. And I wrote Love Warrior as a marriage redemption book, a story, because I had found out that my husband had been cheating on me our whole marriage, and that was a doozy. And then, in the Christian...
Oh, this is a sip and spill. We're in the sip and spill of it all now.
We are. I mean, in the Christian world, that's like the pressure to what is called just find grace and forgive is heavy. It's heavy. And that is the story of that book. And it was a big book. It was picked as Oprah's book club. So there was a lot of pressure on the story. And then at the first event that I went to launch Love Warrior, I met Abby.
Oh my God.
It was 6 weeks before the book came out. And I had to talk about like disappointing everybody else while rocking the boat. I had to, I had to call Oprah and be like, okay, so here's the thing. Actually, our redemption book, I'm going to follow this love that I have with this woman. And, harder than that was telling my children and all of it. So, and, people told me, my people I love in my who are still in my life career-wise said, this will be the end of your career forever. Like, you can do this, but this will be the end.
Honey, I'm looking at you right now and I don't think that's the case.
But that's the thing, Dylan. It's like, what's so wonderful and beautiful about you is that we don't need people to stay the same. Like, that's not what's trustworthy. What's trustworthy is to just tell the truth of who you are. And then when the truth changes, tell that truth. The trouble we get in is when we tell the truth of who we are, and then that becomes some kind of cast. Like, we have to stay in that thing.
Yes.
That's not even true. That's not the way life works. Life is change.
And I think social media only helps prop up that initial truth that then can't form into other truths. Because I remember the first time I cursed on social media, everyone was like, what? Like they couldn't believe it. And then now I think there's nothing sustainable about having to be, the bubbliest sort of infantilized version of femininity. And something I really wanted to talk to you today, and kind of the theme of our episode, is sisterhood. And I think I've obviously, I love femininity. I love connecting with women. I love feeling those friendships and that sisterhood in my life, but I feel often very guilty about that sisterhood. Also, we share a little Irish sisterhood. Did you know that?
I do now. I did not know
Top
that.
of the morning to you, honey.
And the rest
Mulvaney,
of the day to you.
we're from the north. You're very Irish, right?
Very Irish, yes.
Okay.
Both sides.
Now, tell me, when you think of the idea of sisterhood, what does it mean to you?
That's such an interesting question because, well, as you know, the concept of gender is so baffling to me. Like, even the word sisterhood I get stuck on because I don't understand.
Yes, who's entitled to it?
And I'm not being difficult. Like, I truly don't. There are some concepts that I cannot get a hold on, and I don't think it's because I'm stupid. I think it's because they are concepts that are nonsensical.
Speak on
that
it.
anyone who thinks they have a grip on it has like some kind of false sense of security or dogma. Okay, I think sisterhood to me, I mean, I guess for me, like siblinghood would be a better word. I guess it means
Well, because you do have a real sister.
I do have a real sister. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
I have a
so
real sister.
siblinghood is like the literal, sort of the sister to sister connection that you do have
Mm-hmm.
with your sister. And then I guess sisterhood can also be more figurative, though. Like when you think of your female friendships, is there a better like word that you can think of?
I mean, I guess I want to live in a way that, like when I reached out to you, I find life to be so difficult. It's not an easy road for me.
No.
And
Retweet.
what I've learned is that the only thing that makes it a little bit easier is that if when I'm struggling, not when I'm at a high, everybody wants to be friends when you're at a high. Like everybody, like that's nothing. But when I'm not popular, when I'm not having a good moment, when I'm struggling, I never forget the people who reach out then.
Amen.
I think that is sisterhood to me.
That was when I had a lot of, very shiny people in my life because of this following that I grew. And then when shit went down, it was interesting to see who was there and how interesting that like not only the people that stayed there, but you were one of the few that actually like ran to me and said, "Hi, are you okay?" in a way that I would have expected a lot of my loved one, the people that I thought loved me to do, but they were scared of what that meant if they showed support, especially publicly. And I think sisterhood is something that I feel it actually makes me really feel nice to know that you kind of also are struggling with this concept, because I get very guilty. I feel guilty because I assume that specifically like cis women love the concept and then don't want me to be a part of it. They don't feel like trans women can occupy that space, or if we do, it needs to be this very delicate sort of walk of the line of what's inserting yourself too much into womanhood and sisterhood and what's not enough and who's trying too much and who's, not. And I think I've sort of thrown my hands up at trying so desperately to be a part of something that doesn't always feel like it wants me. But do you at times feel like you aren't included?
I have never, this is an ad nauseum conversation that Abby and I have had. I have never in my entire life, not one time, felt a true belonging in a group, except for my teeny little family in this house, which is why as my kids are getting older and leaving, I'm having a full-on existential crisis. It's not
the one group that you were like, I could lead this is
yes.
Wait, are they moving out for college?
One is a senior in college. One is she's just graduated from high school and she's doing music, so she's on. They're doing what they should be doing.
Okay, so I'm moving in is what it looks like.
Dylan,
is happening.
you move in.
And I'm never leaving that house ever, and we're just gonna sit on the couch and maybe that's what sisterhood is.
And that is. But Dylan, I just want you to know that I just believe that there are some people who struggle with belonging. My sister and I call it like dissolving into a group. It's usually, I know several people who have this feeling, and I think it's people who have a very strong individuality. I really think we kind of balance back and forth between, do I get belonging or do I get individuality? And for me, for many reasons, I panic a little bit. I have a hard time fitting in anywhere. And whatever you're talking about, the version of sisterhood that looks like a commercial or like a book club or like that thing, I don't have that. I don't have a group. I don't have like a bunch of people that I call and come over on Sunday and we like braid each other's hair. Like I don't have that version. I have a few friends that I would die for.
Mm-hmm.
They're separate. They're not even friends with each other. And there's only like 3 of them.
It freaks me out when like friends from separate places sometimes get together and it's whew.
Scary.
It feels like we're at either a wedding
Scary.
or a funeral. I'm like, which one is that? Because I do sometimes, because some people aren't supposed to meet, I don't think. You know, I think sometimes a little separation isn't the worst thing.
Totally.
But as far as your actual biological sister, tell me about her.
Well, she's probably one of the reasons that I've never forced belonging with anyone else and I used to be so confused about when my friends needed each other because I always got every single thing that I needed. So I thought from my sister. She's 3 years younger than me. She doesn't function like a younger sister. She functions like an older sister, which is something that happens in families where one kid is addicted. So I was a raging addict from the time I was 10 years old. So because of that, she kind of became the caretaker. She is still the caretaker, which is 40 years
Amanda,
later.
right?
Amanda, yeah.
And Amanda co-hosts the podcast with you sometimes.
She sure
right?
does. She's a genius. She's the fiercest, smartest, kindest person I know. We were actually in a car this week because my aunt is really, really sick and we had to go sit with her. And we were driving home and my sister just said, I cannot believe that there's going to be a point on this earth when one of us has to leave the other first. Like, I don't have any recollection or consciousness of life
without her.
Yeah. So that sisterhood I get. But she has to love me. That's the thing. I can't find belonging where people can make choices. Like I can only find belonging with people who are contractually obligated to love me. Yeah.
And your sister has been kind of going through it as well lately with a lot of health things, but I think it all relates back to advocating for yourself. And that was a huge theme of Amanda's life recently.
Saved her life. I mean, she went for her mammograms. They were all clear because of some genetic testing we had because of a family member. She had this like one thing they couldn't explain on her genetic testing, but they said it's fine. Don't worry about it. She insisted upon a ultrasound, and long story short, she kept insisting. They kept saying, it's fine, you're fine. And then she kept insisting. She just had this hunch, and they ended up doing an MRI, and they found that her breast was actually full of cancer. But because of her density, if you have a high density breasts, it shows up white in a mammogram, and cancer is white. So you can't see it. It's just an insanity of the medical system that is, of course, not set up to serve women in any way. So her self-advocacy, following her hunch, it's kind of a version, it's exactly a version of what we talked about before. It's just amazing when you figure out no one else is going to take responsibility for your life. It sounds so simple, but it's not simple. It took me 50 years to figure it out. It's like whenever I get bitter that I'm being dragged in too many directions or that I have to do something that I do, I get mad at other people for making me do the thing. And I get bitter. And then phase 2 is my body starts shutting down. I get exhausted. I can't function. And then stage 3 is when I remember that no one is supposed to take care of me except for me. And then I go and make all my decisions and everyone goes on and lives. And so Sister's version was that. That was her version of self-advocacy, and she saved her literal own life.
Wow. And so how is she right now?
Perfect and wonderful. We went through a slice of hell and not knowing, and it was really scary. for about 6 months. And she just got extremely lucky and it was all cleared out and she had wonderful surgeons and now she's absolutely fine.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I would like to meet her one day.
Oh, I know you will. You will love her.
Okay,
She'll
good.
be a good sister to you.
I see. That's where I think I really I have a half sister, Stacy. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
But she's my sister, and she's a bit older than me, and we didn't really grow up the same way that you were talking about of like knowing life without the other. And we also my parents were divorced, so I was always at a different house, and I think there was like when I transitioned, there was a guilt associated, especially I think my family, I couldn't believe that they were going to have to make all these shifts, saying my daughter, my sister, my, she, but specifically more than anything it was my mom and my sister, because I felt so guilty that like I was going to be expecting them to view me as equals, or like, I think I talk a little bit about this in my book of like, kind of almost, I think some queer people and trans people, we pull away from family because we're so scared that, even if they do accept us, that it's too much to ask of someone that loves you to then shift and see you in that different light. But it's so possible. And I think, it's been a long road trying to get there with my family. But was that difficult for the family, the women in your life to kind of get behind seeing you as a queer person?
I mean, okay, a couple things, because as you're talking about that with your family, what I'm thinking is that is a version, and maybe in some ways a more dramatic and difficult version, I'll give you that, of what every single adult has to do. Every single, like, the thing that I have found that has kept me most trapped and small is the family role that I was cast into in my family of origin. Everybody in the world is cast into a family role. Okay, you're the this one, you're the that one, you're the that one. That's how families function because families are chaos.
Glennon, could we turn off the air? Sorry, I'm getting a little chilly.
Good job, Dylan.
I know.
You just identified a need.
I asked for what I needed.
You asked for what you need.
Yeah. Oh, people, it's starting. Oh my God. Okay, Glennon, what was your family role?
Okay, so I was the sick one. That was my job. And there's a lot of versions of this role. Some people call it the scapegoat. The important thing is that the sick one stays sick. So for me, it didn't matter what that sickness was. It could be bulimia, it could be depression, it could be alcoholism, it could be anorexia, it could be intense anxiety. What mattered was that I stayed fucked up, because what happens then is that everybody else organizes themselves around that person. Like, all of the family's dysfunction can be understood as just inside this one person. One person is embodying all the fucked upness of the whole family. Okay. What is fascinating is that every person has this like hero's journey that they can go on based on the role that they were cast in order to become fully human. All right. But it's so hard, because when I first started to consider, I mean, Dylan, I used to write in my first memoir, I wrote these words in ink. I was born broken. I was born, it's in writing. I can't take it back. Like, who's born broken?
And that's why you have a lot of books to prove otherwise.
I'm like, everything's just a retraction of, because that's what life is, right? You just like keep looking back with different lenses, better lenses.
I feel like I'm going to find you in Barnes & Noble just like sharpening out that line from every single one.
I know. But it's interesting because when you break out of your role, the whole family goes into chaos, because when you change your role, everybody else has to change their roles. And it's hard, and it rocks the boat, and it's very scary. But I do believe that is a version of what every adult, most of us don't, by the way. Most people just stay in their family roles forever. They actually believe they're the sick one. They actually believe they're the hero. They actually believe that they're this one-dimensional character, and they never get to expand into their whole full humanity. But that's what adulthood is. It's just rejecting the original family role. Yeah, I have felt it.
And then do you feel like now does your family have roles right now? Or have you tried to kind of like not let that happen because you've been able to call it out?
Yeah. So here's what happened to me. And I wonder if other people will relate to this. I bet they will, is that I called it out. And then shit got really weird with my family. Like every holiday was like, it was like there was this huge elephant in the room that I couldn't take back. And so then guess what I did? I got sick again. I was like, oh, like I didn't do this consciously, but the discomfort was so apparent with the whole family that it felt easier to be like, forget it, never mind. I'll go back to my role. I'll be the sick one. We can all just, turn back towards me and figure this out. So then I got sick again for another year before I figured out what I was doing.
It's like you've like identified the stereotypes of like the Sex and the City characters and what they would say. And then it's like a Black Mirror episode where they don't know how to function anymore because they go to just be stereotypes of themselves. It's scary to call something like that. It's such a big concept, especially if somebody isn't ready to hear that. And if your family members, for example.
Yeah, because when a grown-up kid is saying, actually, I don't think that I was just born broken. Like, I think there is a lot of toxicity and sickness, but I think it belongs to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it can be explained away just as my problem. I think it's a family problem. That's not what they were saying when I was young. When a kid got sick, they just put the kid in therapy. I had to go to a mental hospital by myself and then go back to the same, so the problem is that when you say, actually, I don't think I was born broken. I think I was just born into a family like all families where there was a lot of toxins and I breathed in those toxins and that's what made me sick. I don't think it was me. I think it was all of us. When you say that, everybody loses their mind because that wasn't the story. That wasn't the narrative. Right? That's like, then everybody has to look at their own shit. And people do not want to do that.
But now you are someone that I think is known as like helping others call out their own shit. And I think what is kind of odd about that role then is that people tend to put you up on a pedestal, or people, like I've seen people refer to you as like the patron saint of like female empowerment, or like some of these really intense titles. And so they like to project that onto me at times as well too, as far like a trans activist, which I'm like, wait, I've never called myself an activist in my entire life. Like when people say that to you, I was curious, just like selfishly, I wanted to know, like, how does that make you? Does it make you feel weird, or are you like so grateful for it? How do you respond? I shut down
because it doesn't make any sense. There's nothing real about it. Like I will say that. So I go for a walk every day, and often I'll be walking on the little sidewalk in front of our house. It's like this big path, and very often someone will stop me who's actually listening to the pod, and they will hug me, and there's like a very real moment of like realness, like something that they were going through, I was talking about, and that made them feel less alone. That shit lands with me. I like people who are just always themselves, meaning they're different every day. I'm different all the days. I can't even put a word after I am without getting itchy because I don't know what I'm going to be tomorrow. I don't know. And I need the freedom to be constantly evolving, to be whatever I need to be right now. So I can barely even say I am Glennon. So I'm certainly not going to relate to I am a patron saint of female empowerment. That is way too much labeling for me.
Right. Yeah, I think about the I am statements of like, well, like I am a woman now. And I think about my relationship to femininity, and I'm so scared that like the moment that I claimed that title, like how can my womanhood change and how can it evolve past this thing that, especially what I struggle with is like, because obviously people took to a specific version of what that I am was when I was putting out those videos. And now I feel very differently about my womanhood in a thousand other ways, in really rich ways and beautiful ones and dark ones and sad ones that, but I'm so scared because I don't think that they're going to enjoy that I am, that woman, as much as they did before.
So Dylan, that's womanhood.
Fuck.
Everybody on earth wants you to be a shiny, two-dimensional caricature.
Yeah.
And then when you introduce any sort of complexity, darkness, difference, blah, 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 the whole world freaks the fuck out. So yeah, I feel that too.
Did your relationship with Abby kind of free you from a little bit of that, being like so close with another woman that like you didn't have to, like it wasn't as much in your own home?
Okay, so here's a funny story I'm going to tell you that I've never told anyone, because when you say that, you would think that, right? You would think right away. You look at Abby, she's so like free and no gender norms there. And when I first met Abby, our first night together, we were still very much on the down low. I had told my family and my kids, but nobody in the public. I flew to see her, and we were going to be in a room for the first time. We had already both blown up our entire lives to be together, and we had not spent more than 10 minutes in a room together, okay?
Yes.
This was very intense, high stakes. We were in a hotel room. She had to leave to go do the ESPYs. She had to like accept, it's like the Oscars for the sports people or something. She had to like accept a statue.
Do you think of yourself as a wag?
What is a wag?
A wife and girlfriend of like sports players.
I guess so.
We got to get you a reality show.
I feel
it's
it.
You and like all the wags.
My entire reality show.
You got to continue. Go.
Dylan, they'd be like, she's still on the couch. She's
there.
Still on the couch. My
with
whole
her bubbly
show would be
water.
Like, she's going to the bathroom. She's back on the couch.
Yep.
Okay,
Stakes
so
are high.
She leaves to do the ESPYs. She leaves me a present on the bed. I open up the present, and Dylan, it's these, if they were not 7-inch Louboutin heels, I don't know, they were the highest heels I have ever seen in my life. I couldn't, and I was like, I did not see this coming. This is like not the lesbian culture I was expecting. And I was,
you thought there was going to be Birkenstocks in that box.
Exactly. Something comfortable, at least. It was like, it could not have been a more stereotypical feminine shit. Dylan, I tried so hard. The whole time she was gone, I tried to put them on my feet. I was trying to practice walking around the hotel because I didn't want her to know that I didn't know. I think we've laughed about it so much, and I think she was so entrenched in this like professional sports world where you like buy your girlfriend this like fancy shit, this like hyper feminine versus
She's gonna
masculine.
Love this.
And I was like, what is this shit? So it was so interesting. We had to like, we were two women and we were still very much unraveling. Yeah.
Yes. And then do you still own the heels?
No, I don't know what the hell I did with those. I just never wanted to see them again. No. And then over time, we did undo that. And Abby has been extremely helpful to me I used to say to her, Dylan, I was so disembodied. I had no idea what I wanted, how to feel good, how to feel like myself. All I did was look out at the world and decide what I should look like, what I should present myself as, what I should. I used to look at her and say, do I look comfortable? And she'd go, Glennon, I can't tell you if you look comfortable. That's like a thing people have to decide for themselves.
That's the craziest question I've ever heard in my entire life.
That is a disembodied human being, right? Just, it doesn't matter if I am comfortable. Can you just tell me if I look comfortable?
Look it.
Because that's what I'm going for.
Because there's no chance in hell that I will ever be. But if I look it, that is, oh my God. Well, and honey, I've started now dating these straight men, and I find myself putting on the Louboutins, but then taking them off because I'm like, oh God, am I taller than them now? Or, like there's so many weird moments where I then try to like perform femininity when in a way, like my transition's been a way to like break down all those things. And then it's like I sign up for it even further.
What is femininity? Like when you think of femininity, what do you think of? I'm so fascinated with this question.
I feel like it's funny because it's a buoyancy. It's a and which what I don't want it to come off as is like, it's so funny because now I'm like listening. I can see the Daily Mail. You know, Dylan Mulvaney believes femininity to be flightiness, but I feel my most grounded when I'm in the air or when I'm in water or when I feel light on my toes, and that's where I like to actually live, is in that the softness of feeling light, and that when I am my most feminine, which is honestly like, I think there's very few people in this world who love the color pink more than I do. And and when I came out, honey, everybody knew that. And then I was told that was a bad thing, you know, and that was something to be embarrassed of. And so started to scale it back. And I think femininity now is any moment where I feel sort of like the softness and the lightness to life. And it has very little to do with my appearance even, or my voice, or the way that my body even, you know, my boobs. Like that isn't a part of my femininity. It's actually, it's like the way that I occupy the air around me.
Mm-hmm. I freaking love that so much. In all of my conversations, I've never heard anybody say it's about buoyancy. I feel that. I feel that in my body. Oh, that's so good.
Maybe are we we're the sisterhood of the buoyancy femininity?
Yeah. There you go.
That means sob. Sisterhood of buoyancy. Uh-oh.
It's also funny because the word boy is in there somewhere, which is cool. I like that.
Oh, I kind of love that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like it's the theme of this conversation too. It's just about a resistance to rigidity. I don't think it has anything to do with what we think it has to do with.
Oh, I have another question. How about when you did, oh my God, I almost said transition. I meant when you entered into your lesbianhood.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you then felt like you needed to be more masculine? Like, was there ever a part of you that was like, ooh, I want to butch it up a little bit?
Yes. I have some humiliating pictures from a red carpet in which I decided that I was going to all at once embrace all of my lesbianness. And if I have like this huge flannel on and boots.
Can I Google that?
I wish you wouldn't. I'm sure you will.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a caricature of the other side. It was ridiculous.
This will be the blast from the past segment where we now insert a picture of you on the red carpet in like, were you in like a suit?
No, it was like a big flannel,
honey,
and like these huge jeans and boots. Oh, it looked so
straight from the cabin in the woods.
It was pretty comfortable though. I do remember having a good night.
And you didn't even have to ask, do I look comfortable? Because you just were. So maybe you are a little more butch than we all knew. I love it. Oh, I think it's such a gender fuckery when like I go out in like a suit and like slicked little, you know, I feel like daddy for a second. Oh, I usually like to be mommy, but there's sometimes a moment where I think it's and funny enough, my best friend Lily finds me the most feminine when I don't really have makeup on, and oh God, I want you to meet Lily. You're gonna fucking love her. But it's so beautiful to have a woman in your life see that version of you as the most feminine.
Oh, yes, I get that. Yeah, Abby is much more feminine than I am in spirit.
Really?
Yes, I am very feminine in appearance, but she is way soft. Like whatever we attribute to, she's more open, she's more generous, she's softer, she's more buoyant.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Her vibe is more feminine, but her appearance is more masculine, and I'm the opposite.
Well, I guess is that the makings of a good relationship?
Could be.
Could be.
It could be. Whatever it is, it's working for us.
You know anyone for me?
Well, I only know like 3 people, so I'll check in with them.
That's perfect because the chances are, if you enjoy them, I
That's
probably
right.
will.
You know I've vetted them.
It's very clear that we've already done a lot of oversharing.
Yeah.
So why don't we push you a little bit more to our overshare, don't care segment?
Great.
This is a lightning round of 10 questions.
Okay.
You're on the clock. It's going to be 2 minutes countdown.
Okay.
And I'm just going to ask you a series of questions and you answer them as quickly as you can.
Okay.
Deal?
Deal.
Oh my God, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, it's happening. What is your number one favorite way to relax?
Trash TV.
Favorite color versus color used most in your home decor?
Ooh! Purple, blue.
I turned 27 this year. What's something you wish you could tell your 27-year-old self?
It's going to be okay.
What's your comfort TV show?
The Real Housewives.
What's a habit of yours that you wish you could instantly break?
Judging. Always judging.
Of all the ages you've been, what's the best age?
Now, 48.
What is the last thing that made you belly laugh?
Voice messages from Liz Gilbert.
Lesbian trope that you fall under?
Oh, we just never stop talking. We can't, it's not enough to understand each other. We have to overstand each other.
One of your favorite guests that you've had on your podcast?
Oh, I just had Alex.
Hedison?
Yeah.
Oh, last time you cried happy tears?
Oh, my daughter. She's on her first tour. So she's on stage singing to people. And I stand there and listen. Well, I'm her roadie, Dylan. Abby and I are on an 18-city tour right now. I'm only on a break for 2 days.
Oh my God,
so
and I
I
got you.
stand there and she sings.
Oh, who was your teenage crush?
John Bon Jovi.
I don't know who that is.
Dylan, did you just say you don't know who that is?
Cold plunges or nah?
Nah for me, yes for Abby.
What is the hardest part about writing a book?
Everything. It's the worst thing in the world. It's impossible.
Okay, in that we have, honey, I need 78 podcasts based on every single question I just asked you. So I guess we're going to a John Bon Jovi concert together one day.
We must.
That might be my introduction. What can you give me a little hum of maybe one of his big tunes?
Oh, we're halfway there.
Oh,
we're living on a prayer. Yes.
Okay, I know that song.
Okay,
and now I just need to Google
Gina.
a picture. But so was this? But like a younger version of John Bon Jovi just really got it going for you.
Yeah, I feel like any version. Now I think when I think of my crushes, they were all the long-haired, like the bands, the rock bands.
Yes,
they all had the long hair.
I still have that.
So I think it might have been my gateway, like my acceptable embracing of the femininity early. Because I had there was no possibility of queerness for me. I didn't know a single queer person. There was no queer people in my neighborhood, my school, so I think that may have been the way that I got in the door.
Okay. And see, I think the long hair for me was I was attracted to long-haired men because I wanted the long hair and then I wanted to be a woman.
That's fair.
So, it's two sides of a different coin.
That's right.
And then how about, you just saw Alex Hedison, who we love. Mm-hmm. It's you've got this like, you are kind of part of like a lesbian mafia in a way. It's
we call ourselves a militia Etheridge. A militia Etheridge is what we call ourselves.
That's what you call yourselves?
The militia Etheridge, yeah. Any group of lesbians, yes.
Oh, that's really good. Mm-hmm. So I just need to get a girlfriend really quickly to join that.
You are so welcome, Dylan. You are so welcome.
And then this is a biggie, though, because I feel like I've gotten so much from you that I need to be able to give back to you in other ways. It needs to be an equal exchange. I'm friends with many Real Housewives.
Oh,
are there any that you are and maybe you like to keep work and play separate, but is there anyone that you are like, if I could have just like a meal or a little conversation with, which of the Housewives do you just adore?
Well, Dylan, I think one of the beauties of the Real Housewives for me is that they stay in my TV. I don't know what would happen if they came into my house.
You know what? You seem to clean up your side of the street pretty okay-ish right now. I don't know if it could bring in some fun chaos.
I think I love the fun chaos. I like contained chaos. For me, structure liberates. So lots of chaos, but inside my TV is I can survive. But I think I'm a person who tries so hard. Like I'm just I just try so hard. And I'm always trying to be good and do better. And there's something that is so freeing to me to watch a bunch of women who are not even trying to be good. They are not even trying to be good. They are.
Nope.
And
they're trying to be bad.
They're trying to be bad. And I don't hate it.
Oh,
I do not hate it.
And you know what I got to tell you though, being in those rooms with them, even when the cameras are off, they're still being bad. They're still being bad, but in like a very lovable way.
Right.
I got, oh honey, we got to have a dinner. I got some good stories for you. But also maybe, be honest with us, is one of these contracts that you had to like retroactively turn down, were you going to join a Real Housewives franchise?
No one has ever invited. I would be the most boring. Can you imagine?
No, let's
communicate directly. I would be the worst.
I've thought about it a lot of like, if I was like a permanent fixture on that show and what kind of tropes or stereotypes I would fall under. And I think we're pretty similar in the way that we would probably just cry every single time a fight broke out and said, in Mean Girls where like the girl gets up and she's like, can't we all just get along?
Yes.
I think it would start to wait, or we'd hold it in and then we would series finale, we'd explode.
I could do that
We'd
too.
be like, everything you ever thought about everyone would come out.
Yes, we could analyze the shit out of them. I will give you some tea, which is that more than one Real Housewife who has been through the transition of being in a hetero and then switched out has contacted me secretly for guidance.
So that's who. Okay, so you're the lesbian Real Housewife whisperer. I'm the celebrity trans kid whisperer. Whenever somebody has a trans kid in Hollywood, I'm like, oh, I got this great meeting with someone, and then I show up and it's like them holding the hand of a small child in like a Disney gown, saying help. So that's who's in our DMs.
Dylan, that's the story of my life. A different version of that. Every time, it's always somebody getting sober or somebody who just figured out that they're gay. That is my job on the planet, is to walk people through those things. I didn't sign up for it, but that is my job.
Well, I'm going to send all my people for those particular things your way. You got any transes in your life, you send them mine.
I'm so glad to know that.
And then our last segment on the show. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, this is our last call confessions.
Okay.
We have a phone call from one of my lovely followers, and they're going to either confess something to us or give us a piece of it. We're going to ask for a piece of advice.
I love it.
Is me getting top surgery blasphemy against God? Am I going to hell?
Honey baby angel human that left this voicemail. I wish I could hug you right now because I want you to know that I don't think there's anything blasphemous about you getting the care that you need and deserve. And I think if it's any help to whoever you are out there, actually my transness has brought me a lot closer to God or an idea of a higher power. And I think the more that I really honor when I do things for my body and with my body, when it's for me and not for anyone else and not trying to please anyone else, when I have taken those steps to do so, I then look in the mirror and I feel so much closer to who I was always supposed to be. And I would like to believe that if there is a higher power or a God, that they love that for me. And so I want you to go into this situation of you experiencing hopefully what will be a really affirming moment and in your life with nothing but excitement and joy and euphoria and trying to make it the most special experience it can be and not one that's weighed down with baggage, because I got that religious baggage too, baby, and we can't always take it with us, especially not into surgery.
Yeah. And I would just add, from me, you're hearing this from a former Sunday school teacher who has been part of churches her entire life, and who feels still deeply, deeply connected to God. I just know like I know I'm alive and talking to Dylan right now, that the God that I know and love is kind of like a parent God, a parenting God. And I can tell you, love, that as a parent, the most beautiful thing in the world is watching your kid live out loud exactly who they are. That's the joy. That's what parenting is. It's just watching in awe. And like the awe, I'm going to try really hard not to start crying right now, but the awe gets bigger and bolder, the bigger and bolder the kid gets. Like the braver the kid gets. I think this is why we're always trying to talk about why we tend to respect and love and admire queer and trans people more. because and it's not just about the queerness or the transness. It's because I have an immediate respect for anybody who I know has done the brave and hard work of becoming who they are when there is resistance to that becoming. That is what I respect. So the awe of seeing that in your own kid, I know that that's the pride and the joy of whatever God is, watching God's children be brave enough to break the cultural mold and become who they were born to be.
It's watching your daughter sing on stage.
It is. It's watching anybody, a friend, a kid, this caller, really going inside themselves and blooming.
Yep.
Not just matching, not assimilating, not dying inside while they toe some line, but blooming from what was born inside the seed that only they know. Yes. So if you are led to top surgery, is having top surgery blasphemous to God? If you are led to top surgery, having top surgery is communion with God. It's celebratory. It's a fulfillment. Go, go, go.
Glennon, I think I maybe just had my favorite interview ever with someone.
Dylan. Me too, and I'm so glad we did this.
You promise we'll get to talk again in our lives?
You have my number. You text me, and I will text you back, Dylan. That is how much I love you.
Wow. And I'll text you back. Do you like a voice note?
I love a voice note. That's
let's move to that because I like to know where the inflection is going.
Yes.
And I really struggle with especially if we're, I want a little reference in what's happening.
Yeah. And Dylan, you just keep being your buoyant, fresh self every damn day. And you just keep showing up exactly as you are, whoever you are that day.
Yeah, and if you want to do another carpet in flannel, I'll hold your hand. I'll plus one for that. I'll wear the matching flannel gown version.
Oh my God, I would love to see that.
Oh my God, I adore you in ways that I hope you know, and then other ways you will never will. But thank you for. Oh my God, it's so. Oh no, not why I've never cried on the Dylan Hour yet. It's so crazy to get to talk with someone who has gotten you through a lot, and you were that person for me. So, thank you.
I love you. You're wonderful.
I love you.
Thank you for this hour.
Okay, you have a good rest of your day, and we love you here at the Dylan Hour.
Love you back. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Glennon.
Want even more of the Dylan Hour? Now is a great time to subscribe to Lemonada Premium. You'll get bonus content, outtakes, and more from conversations with fabulous guests like Joe Locke and Dylan's dad, Jim Mulvaney. Just hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, or for all other podcast apps, head to lemonadapremium.com to subscribe. That's lemonadapremium.com. The Dylan Hour is a production of Lemonada Media. Our supervising producer is Jess Kreinchich. Producers are Carmen Laurent, Keegan Zema, and Aria Bracci. Audio and video production and engineering by Jordan Lin, Ivan Karayev, and Brian Castillo. Our SVP of weekly programming is Steve Nelson. Our theme song was composed by Daniel Mertzleft and arranged by Aaron Kaufman. Special thanks to Megan Strickland. Executive producers Stephanie Whittles-Wax, Jessica Cordova-Kramer, Catherine Law, and Dylan Mulvaney. You can find us online at Lemonada Media, and you can find Dylan on TikTok and Instagram at Dylan Mulvaney. Follow The Dylan Hour wherever you get your podcasts, or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership.